We're live. Awesome. I just had to mess a little bit with my audio settings here, so just let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. That would be good to know. Okay, cool. It's a new show. It's a new day, and today we are gonna be drawing a little bit. We're gonna be painting and drawing. I've been experimenting with some stuff, and I want to show some of those things. Hopefully, we're gonna have a great evening. At least for me, it's evening. Also, if you are new to the show, then let me know that you're here. And just in general, if you're watching, let me know that you're here. Just give me a little hey. I can see that Blix is already here. I can see Schultz is already here. Hello, hello, hello. Johnny Guidos, hello, ho, 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 ho. Awesome. Nice to meet everyone. The way the show works is that I don't know if it's a show, but okay. The way the stream works is that I go for about like between 2 and 4 hours, and there'll be a break around the 1 hour mark where you can grab a snack, you can go to the bathroom, something like that, and I'll pretty much just be working, I'll just be doing something and working my way through it. So that's gonna be great. And today, as I said before, we are gonna be doing some drawing and painting of some characters. I specifically have been messing around with kind of changing the way I draw, and I thought that could actually be kind of interesting to talk about. So if you are kind of drawing or painting or learning those kind of things, then I think actually the first discussion is going to be really interesting, because it's kind of based on years of experience, and it's I think there's some valuable lessons there. Probably also applies to other things, so hopefully that's going to be great. Before that, who wants to see a little secret thing that I'm working on? Ooh. Maybe some of you guys know about this. So there was some people so if anyone's watched, like, so I have 2 videos on my YouTube channel called where I'm making a game basically, and that's a while ago now. I will get back to it. It's just sometimes life is a mess, not in a bad way, in a good way, but sometimes life is a mess. Also, I'm wearing my shirt the wrong way around. You see, like, this inside out. That's the label here. It's my new cool style. I call it inverse style. Why? I don't know. I accidentally put it on reversed, and then I went into the mirror and I was like, you know what? This actually looks kind of, because it's supposed to just be, like a work shirt. Wait. It just has that pattern on the inside, right? Like more of the whatever. And then I was like, you know what, this is gonna be my new style. It does have the label over here, it's a little bit, but whatever, otherwise good. What was I talking about? Yeah, so I do have those videos on my YouTube channel where I'm making a game, and in that video I mentioned that I had previously tried to do something else. A card game. And somehow, I'm just gonna zoom in here a little bit. Okay, that was intense. Somehow I got back to that, and I explain why. And I just want to show you that, and you guys only get to see it because you're on the stream. So that's awesome. I'm gonna switch over. Bum bum bum. And I'm just gonna stop this right here. These renders. Looks like this, and this is actually kind of interesting, because what happened was that years ago I wanted to make a card game. I was just like, oh, it'd be fun to make a card game, and then I was like, oh, if I had a card game, I should probably make I'll make like a sci-fi card game, and then I'll create a world or something for that card game. And the world that I created for the card game at the time, this is back in 2019, was the world of Black Horizon. If you guys know, that's the thing I'm working on. Total self-plug right there. And that's kind of how that whole thing started. Like, I was making the card game that became Black Horizon, and then they just kind of snowballed from there. And somehow now I'm back to the card game. And the reason is that I was having a conversation with a friend who was just like, you know what? We could just do it, like, and somehow it just all the pieces fell together, because for a long time I couldn't figure out the exact combination of everything, like tech and gameplay and all those things. It didn't work out. But then we had a conversation and somehow everything just fit, and also like how we're actually doing it. So now I'm doing some visual development for this card game, and I'm just doing it in Blender basically, and I'm playing around with little functions like, oh, there's a ship coming there, and oh, a laser beam hit there, and things like that. And I'm playing with this kind of slightly crazy angle, but there's also an angle that's a bit more familiar. And I really want to talk more about this in the future when it's a little bit further along. But I'm currently working on this with a friend, and it's not taking that much more time because I'm just making assets for it, and I'm doing that anyways for Black Horizon. So it just kind of adds up. So that's something that I'm working on right now. And there'll probably be more stuff like that in the future. What is open writing here? Hello, good to see you too. I have a question. As an experienced 3D artist, what do you think? Where should a 3D artist grow? Game design or VFX? What do you think will be relevant in the industry? Yeah, that's a great question actually. So, you know, this is just going to be my opinion, right? I have not worked in the VFX industry as a 3D artist. I have not worked in the games industry as a 3D artist. You know, I'm a concept artist and I've worked at various places. But I know a lot of people in VFX, and I know a lot of people in game design, you know, who've worked with the things. I think the people in VFX, they seem to really want to be there. They kind of seem to have a specific passion for the VFX stuff, even though the working conditions are overall worse, I think, than the games industry. Like, working conditions in the games industry are typically a lot better than in the VFX industry. And I think it's a combination of, like, VFX industry comes from Hollywood, games industry comes from software. It kind of comes from two different things. So the culture and the way to do things, they're kind of, you know, they emerge from two different things. So I think they're very different. And VFX stuff, usually you work in, you know, maybe you're working a year or something max on a project. You might be doing 2 years, but typically there's a pretty fast turnaround for films, right? In comparison to games, where you could be there, you could also be there for a year, 2 years, or 3, 4, 5 years, and 7 years. Like, these things are possible in the games industry, and I think in VFX people tend to move around a lot more, and in games you tend to stick. I also think that the games industry is a little bit more stable than VFX. VFX is just a little bit more volatile because the nature is just like, we're building up and then we're making a big series or a big film and then release that and then on to the next thing. So I think there's a lot of shake-up, where games are a little bit more of like, they are more stable business, I think, overall. That's my impression. So that's kind of like just how I see the industry in that way, like in really big strokes, right? So I think for stability, then there's some really interesting stuff with like game design, but there's also areas of VFX that are very stable, especially if you're maybe like working for an outsourcing VFX house or something. Then maybe, yeah, that's that. I think personally, I think there's more growth in the games industry, and there's just more. I think there's more opportunities of doing different stuff in the games industry. I think more people are willing to do things that are a little bit more experimental. I think films, they come from a little bit more of an old world thing. That doesn't mean that there's not even innovation in films. There absolutely is. I just think it goes a little bit slower. Where games, you could jump on a project tomorrow that would be doing something completely new. I think that's a lot harder with films. So I would say, like, if you want to play it safe, I actually think games is a really good thing to look into. That's how I think about it, to be honest. Even though the games industry is not doing great right now, it's doing better than the VFX industry. I think the games industry is like 4 times the size of the film industry, and like all of like kind of film, cinema, series and stuff, if not more. But if you're a 3D artist and you're saying, wait, so question, as an experienced 3D artist, what do you think? Where should a 3D artist grow, game design or VFX? I think it really depends on what kind of 3D you've been doing. if you if you worked as a generalist 3D artist, then going into game design is maybe a little bit easier because you maybe done a bunch of things, but I also think game design is a very different kind of skill set. Like, so the point is that, like, if you're a generalist, then you may be more used to doing different stuff, so jumping into something like game design is probably a little bit easier, versus if you've only done like character art, then maybe jumping into game design is a little bit harder, just because you've done less variation. But it really depends what would be relevant. But in terms of like what skills would be relevant in the 3D industry, I think that's maybe the big things. What skills would be relevant? I think, okay, so this is maybe the best answer. I think overall, the more generalist you can become, probably the better. I think specialized jobs is the stuff they're gonna die before. I think we'll ask people to do more different stuff. That's gonna come. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but I think down the line will require people to do more things, and those are the kinds of jobs that will be there. It's just having more generalist jobs, and the reason is that I think we're gonna get into a realm where automation is gonna become a big thing, and that's in part gonna be AI. And it's not gonna mean that the AI is gonna be making all the art, but AI is gonna play a role in other things. So maybe I'm hoping that things like retopology, can get automated in a certain way, and many aspects of your workflow will be automated, which means that you have to compensate for that by being kind of in control of multiple tools. That's my best answer here, I think, is that, like, look into the generalist route. I think that's don't specialize too much. I always do my duration is always like do 70-30. So if you want to be a generalist, then just be a generalist, but otherwise do the 70-30 rule. So 70% of your work is kind of what you really love, and then 30% is like your variation. If you just go 100% only on one thing, that can really limit you, unless that one thing you're doing is something so unique that nobody else wants to do, and so valuable also. Kind of like an example is like rigging, for example. Like not a lot of people want to do rigging, so it's a pretty high paid job, and you can always probably get a job, right? Because not a lot of people want to do it. More people want to do character art and things like that. I hope that somewhat answers the question. It was a little bit all over the place, but I hope that was useful. Shadon Vass, hello, welcome. No, hello, welcome. And Schultz is also drawing, so that's great. Let's get into that. That's what's going to happen. We're going to be drawing something. That is, after all, the title of everything. What do I have here? That's not that. Let's see here. Let's see here. How do I do this? There we go. Just need to find the right stuff. Need to find this file here. Let me know, how's everyone doing? Everyone in the chat, is everyone doing amazing? It's an evening after all. Okay, I think this is probably it. Scene. Yeah, I think that's it there. Cool. I want to put on a little bit of music in addition to stuff. Wait, there we go. Now everything should be good. I want to find some music here. Oh, you're doing your last character for creature, so I guess it's a creature then, if you're doing creature challenge. There we go. Okay, music. Music. If anyone wants the playlist, there's the playlist. Now you can't complain. Or you can still complain. But there it is. So, the topic for today, now we're actually gonna get into it, is painting instead of drawing. Now, I've been doing drawing and painting for a pretty long time. And there's many ways of doing drawing and painting and all those things. And I think for a long time I've been kind of drawing the same way. Not because it was necessarily something I wanted, but I knew that it was good for me. I was practicing something very specific. And I kind of want to show the way that I've been doing that. Maybe the music's a little bit too loud. I'm just gonna calm it down here a little bit. And I want to see if I can just find a good example here. I had a project that was doing... There we go. Let's see if I can find a good version of it. Here we go. Okay, just gonna open this file. Okay. Cool beans. I have this project I've been doing where I've been doing like a bunch of Norse gods. I'll talk about that later in some other video. But basically I've been drawing everything like this. The approach has been kind of to do a sketch first. I want to see if we can just find everything that is needed here. So I want to see if I can go through the entire thing. Maybe I actually have one that's simpler somewhere. Line. There we go. Okay, like this. So basically I've been drawing like this for quite a while. Not because it's the way I like drawing the most. By far it's actually definitely not. But I used to be an intern at Six More Vodka, which is an outsourcing, like concept art outsourcing studio. And there I learned a bunch about like construction and character drawing and those things, and there's still a lot of stuff like I could learn, but I kind of learned to like really cement like my drawing, and I kind of did this like I had this approach for a long time now where I just like really think about creating a human character and then dressing the character. And the way I would go about that is just like sketching out the body itself, you know, as a person, and make sure that that all is calibrated, then kind of beginning to layer things on top, you know, so that I'm completely aware of the stuff underneath, then layering the things on top. So I'm not working with like shape or anything like that. I'm still considering the shape when I'm drawing the stuff, but I have to draw everything as a real thing, if that makes sense. Like I'm not doing a big black shape or something, a silhouette or something, and then trying to define everything in there. I am take the approach like this, and then going on with this like that. Once I have this, then there's a couple of ways of going about it. There is, you know, you could go in with color already, or I could do like a clean line, for example, which is what I kind of chose to do here with this kind of thing here. I would go here, and then I would get a line like this, and a little bit unaligned probably because I moved them, but then I would essentially come in and then do a line. So do a clean line for the entire thing based on the sketch, and then I have the clean line, and now I can start digging into everything, and then, you know, start filling in color basically, and then you do like some local color stuff like this here, just coloring in all the local stuff, like that basically, right? And then you have all the local things, and then I start doing like a shadow pass, for example, where I'm getting in the shadows, and then maybe some bounce light here and there, and some highlights and stuff, and some ambient occlusion, and a little bit of painting detailing on top of the things, right? And this method is super useful for consistency, because of the way that the workflow works. It's very repeatable steps, right? But what it also does is that, like, in training, it helps you to focus on the individual components. It helps me, like, I have a stage where I'm just thinking about the local color of what's going on underneath, right? And I have a step where I'm just thinking about the shadow of everything, right? Like, so I can just hyper focus on the form, you know, so that I know that it'll still work like this with just everything being gray, or even like this. Like, all it works in all these layers, and it's very practical in that sense. And it's really, 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 really good for training your kind of like your attention on those different things, right? Like, basically I have a layer just for the hair, to think about the hair. I have a layer just for the highlights. So I'm like, okay, right, how did they peek out, right? The thing is that this method also makes stuff a little bit stiff. For me, it's just a little bit stiff, the way that it ends up looking sometimes. And generally, I actually prefer doing something way more painterly, or a little bit abstract. So I'm on a quest now, because I've basically been doing this style for like so long. Like, I've been forcing myself to try to do everything like this, just to really learn it. And I've come to the point where I'm like, there's not that much more to learn. It's just about me. If I want to make something really nice, I just have to sit down and then just make it nice. Like, I'm not gonna get better at figuring the system out. Like, it's just there. And I've been using it for like so many things. Like, if you look at my portfolio, then I'm using it. It's the same thing I'm doing for like this thing here. Like, it's the same idea, you know. I have a sketch here. I did a little bit of a color thing before, and then a line, coloring in the stuff, and then doing shadow pass and those kind of things, right? It's like that. For these guys, exactly the same thing. I did a sketch. I don't have the sketches here, but I did a sketch and then color in, etc., etc., etc. Same for this thing, you know. I'm doing. Oh, okay. ArtStation doesn't want to show that. Those kinds of things, right? But then I have some stuff a little bit further back in my work, a little bit earlier, like from when I was, let's say, a little bit more free, where it's a little bit more like chaotic. Like, I'm just mixing things here and there. Sometimes I'm just like painting something. Okay, it just doesn't want to show anything. I'm just mixing the techniques a little bit more. And sometimes I'm just like painting something a little bit more. Okay, I mean, ArtStation really does not like me right now, right? Like, mixing things, and it's not as like solidified as something like this, but it has a quality, and I like working with it a lot more. And these kind of things, right, where I'm just like painting these things in, right? And a lot of the principles across the things are the same. But here I could feel back then I was hiding a lot more behind, like, being painterly and stuff. So I wanted to really solidify what it is I'm drawing. So I spent a long time drawing like this to solidify those different elements that we're talking about, like construction, shadow shapes, all those things. And I've done that a lot. And I've done it with different things. I've done it with characters, I've done it with creatures, I've done it with faces, I've done it with environments, you know. I've done it with things, right? And now I'm kind of ready to somehow, for some reason, I'm ready to take a step back and go back to a more painterly approach, honestly. And I want to use a lot of stuff that I've learned from the way I've been painting for a while here, or the way I've been drawing for a while. I'm sorry if I'm not super great at like explaining exactly what's going on. I mean, ArtStation just hates me. It's because I have to relaunch to update. Apparently, huh? Oop. yeah, so that's the thing exactly. So it's so I've been doing this for a while, just to learn, even though it's not like, so there's so many things I could do with this thing to make it more appealing to me personally. You know, I could take the line here, for example, and then I could make this line, you know, I could do something where I'm coloring it or something here and there, just to create a little bit of variance, and then it gets a little bit of character in a different way, you know. There's some areas where it's like, oh, that's nice, and some areas where it's not as nice, but you know, I've not even been experimenting with those things for honestly years, because I just really wanted to learn kind of these fundamentals in a way. I guess they're fundamentals. So, but now I'm kind of like, okay, I want to move out of that. So I've been experimenting with a bunch of things. Just gonna close the door here. I'm experimenting with a bunch of things, and some of the things I've been doing has been like just playing around with painting things just from the way they are, and not breaking everything down, and just trying to make sense of it. Yeah, I've been doing like these kind of things where I still do a kind of like a blank sketch, like this. You know, there's a sketch in there, and then coloring it in, but then just going straight in. I guess I also did a shadow pass here, just for the sake of it, and then, but then basically almost destroying it with actual paint on top, and then just trying to paint everything a lot more. And then I was doing some experiments with like this kind of stuff, where I'm just drawing that in, and then just painting in those different things. And you know, I'm considering all the same things as with the other drawings, like highlights and shadows and stuff, but I'm just doing it all in one go. And the desire actually came from wanting to do more illustration, and just do something a bit more varied, if that makes sense. So that's what's currently going on. And let's say this is actually like a more personal thing, right? So it's just how I like painting. So it's probably going to be a while before you see like a line drawing from me, unless it's for a specific project. But personal work is going to be like this probably. So that's what I'm going to do today. But I'm having a little bit of lag with my Photoshop right now, so I might just restart my Photoshop here. Let's just, you get to look at my face. I'll just set my mustache so you can. Ta-da! There we go. I'll just close a few things here, so you can get a little bit of performance. I think we're also gonna close Blender here. Close that, and then can we get a little bit of? Maybe we should. I should just restart Photoshop here. Photoshop, and maybe Chrome is also just eating up everything I have here. Like that, like that. And opening Photoshop. But the big question is, what are we drawing? We're drawing a character. We draw some kind of character, so that's gonna be nice. It was very fun when we did the angel. I had a lot of fun when doing that. If any of you guys saw that stream, it was stream 20, I think. I'm trying to launch Photoshop here, but it's refusing to. Okay, wait, is it coming? No. Come on, Photoshop. It's not letting me. Photoshop is there behind the scenes. End task. I'm Sorry guys, I'm just trying to launch Photoshop, but my computer is like not playing ball. There we go. Now I think something's happening. All I can say is that if you saw that Thor, the Norse god, before, I have 11 more. That's all I'm gonna say. That's 11 more, and there will be a video about it. Okay, let's do a new file here. There we go. And now everyone can see. Hype. A pilot. A pilot. Okay. So the thing is that like now that I've been experimenting a little bit more with like how I draw things, then I guess I'm sticking with some things in terms of approach. I really like this specific brush here. So if I zoom in a little bit, you can kind of see what it does. It kind of does this, and then sometimes it creates a little bit of a line, like an extra line. If I, yeah, do you see that extra line there? And I just find this one for sketching so incredibly nice, because it's kind of like a mix between doing painting and drawing. I also have some other ones that, this one's also kind of nice. Like it can also work sometimes, but it's a little bit heavier. Maybe I'll try this one today. And then I kind of, a pilot. Then I can just get to kind of draw something. Maybe we'll draw a female. Apolofter. Wait, what? A pilot for a cargo ship. For a cargo ship. Like, so we're talking sci-fi. Switch song, I think. Maybe. I hope everyone's good, but I'm getting into this like, no, just a reminder. Commercial pilot. You know, one of the regular pilot, exactly. You know, one of the really cool things about, for example, Eve, Valkyrie and stuff, is to like, kind of some of the designs they do for their pilots, they kind of have this like headset in a way, and it's kind of like VR they're using for the pilots. I'm definitely having a lot of that in my sci-fi universe. Kind of think we'll do a female pilot here. Then so yeah, not specifically in EVE Online, but in EVE Valkyrie, but that universe, yeah. I think EVE Valkyrie, if we look at like the helmets and stuff like this, you know, it's kind of like a VR headset. I think that's what they're trying to emulate, is that the pilot, you know, they're not seeing through it, they have like a screen in there, and that's kind of doing everything for them. I want to do something similar here. So the great thing about this new method is that I just get to kind of go and be like, yay. Oh, I don't like that. I don't know. You know, sometimes people use this mode here in Photoshop, where they're like, oh, it's not quite full screen, but it's like halfway in between. The thing I really don't like about it is that if I now want to flip, oh no, that works. Okay, no, yeah, see, so now the canvas is a little bit asymmetrical, and then it flips like this, which is insanely annoying. Where here it'll always, oh, it also does that here. Wait, what? Oh, I thought it was just, you know what? I'm just stupid. Oh, you're an OG EVE Online player there. Damn. Were you hardcore, Schultz? Are you like a hardcore EVE player? Because you kind of have to be a hardcore to play EVE even. I think I played for 3 hours and then I just watched a bunch of EVE. I thought it was such an interesting, super cool, like player-driven game, you know. We've got to figure out what kind of, are we doing tights or are we doing, you know what, let's do tights actually. Let's do more like a tight thing going on here. Then here we got our helmet. Okay. Yeah, it's a hard game for newcomers, but if you've been playing between 2000 and 2012, then you must have been kinda decent. So this whole kind of VR element, I'm already using it a little bit in some of my world build here. Let's see, do I have that? I always just go online to find the stuff, even though I have everything local. I could find do I have it? Where do I have it? Do I have it here maybe? Wait, I could actually find it like in this way. Make out. Just a second, I'm just looking for a file on my computer. Characters. Maybe in this one. Let's see here. Favorite games in terms of like video games and stuff. That's kind of that's a pretty hard question to answer. But I can mention some games that I really like. I think typically I enjoy games for, it's kind of like two categories of games where I'm like, either it's social, you're doing something with friends, or you're having like a kind of single player experience. And I don't like comparing those two things. They're just two different experiences, right? So but in terms of like, for example, social games, then I think as long as you're playing with friends, then typically it's pretty fun. But some particular ones that I really liked are Deep Rock Galactic, so Dwarves, Danger and Darkness, way better than Vermintide. Way better than yeah, all those other things. I think Deep Rock is the ultimate kind of 4-player co-op shooter right now, because it's actually about co-op and not just like let's all shoot stuff, etc. Rock and Stone, exactly, Rock and Stone. Deep Rock Galactic. I've been playing a lot of Halo with friends, Halo Infinite. That's been kind of my go-to shooter. I think it's been great. Otherwise, I used to play an insane amount of Counter-Strike. I think I have maybe 4,000 hours in Counter-Strike, but this is like I stopped at Source, basically. That's when I Counter-Strike Source. Otherwise, like co-op games, I think I also used to play a lot of World of Warcraft. That was great. I don't think I ever really liked. I mean, the great thing about World of Warcraft for me was like walking around the world as a noob and then discovering things. I never got into like really raiding and those kind of things. That's not what I liked about the game. It was all about just discovering the world and walking around and kind of having fun and those kind of things. So on the social aspect, I think those things are quite good. Then otherwise, on like single player aspects, I think Shadow of the Colossus has always been really, really, really high for me. Generally, a lot of the PlayStation exclusives I think have just been very, very good and really up my alley. So Shadow of the Colossus, love that game. Last of Us, the first Last of Us, probably on my top 5 greatest video game experiences ever. Just, I love that game. I think it was amazing, and it was obviously due to the story, but I think it just really, really worked for me. Then what else? Journey was awesome. Journey was great. And I played a lot of Skyrim. Very different experience than some of these other ones, but really like Skyrim. And yeah, it gets harder and harder to like name the games you like. I mean, and then I played insanely much like Dragon Ball fighting games, just like so much, and I'm kind of excited to play. And there was a new Budokai Tenkaichi release, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play that. I'll try and get some friends to play with me. Yeah. Any case, this stuff here. So the whole VR thing. Yes, I sculpted. Somebody asked, did I sculpt these things? Yes, I guess I modeled / sculpted them. That's kind of how it is, right? But they are in the Black Horizon. There are the Julians, which are marked by this star. They are kind of the big empire in the thing, and this is kind of the standard foot soldier, right? They look like this, and they have this kind of VR inspired helmet, and it works like this. And I can see his skin is gone, but that's kind of how this is supposed to work. And then this is, I guess, a more advanced version that I haven't quite finished yet. This file is like a year old, if not more. But yeah, it's just kind of like a quick mock-up, and then the whole thing is rigged, I think. So I can, you know, do these kind of things with it. I make these kind of things once in a while, like a character like this, and then I can use it for stuff. And it's insanely useful. That's a base mesh. Do I have something like Commander here, maybe? Loading. Probably is also gonna have purple skin. Let's, okay, not rendering here. Let's just, we're not gonna wait for this. But so yeah, so there's already a little bit of this like VR stuff going on. Hello Plexi, welcome to the stream. Yeah, so we might make her a pilot for kind of the Julians. Yes, I got a haircut. It's more like a hair trimming. Just want to figure out this hand pose here. What could be cool? Remember to save. Pilot. Okay. Let's just look at that. And then let's try going in with just a little bit of color here already. That's kind of the big thing. Can we do this here? Yeah. Inverse, select, modify, contract. Yeah, 5. There, go in that kind of a color there. Nice. And then we can do like this. Whoop. And then we snap this to that. Because then we can clean up the edges like this. Like that, like that. Yeah. Okay, and then I want to figure out some of the local color stuff first here. Maybe that's nice. Kind of want to get. Or should we do it like white? Like, what should the pilots be like? Should they have? I could do it white, and then do make everything else kind of blackish, and then. I want the pilots to have a more striking color, just to be like, okay, these are the pilots. Well, that looks kind of good, no? That's a pretty cool separation. Like, you get a nice transition from top to bottom there. I can do a little bit of things here and there, just like bringing in, bringing in, bringing in. Maybe we can even things like that. Nah, don't want that. Maybe blue gloves. It takes away the special from the blue sleeves there. What if it was just blue gloves then, instead of the blue sleeves? No, I like the blue sleeves more. Yeah, okay. Pilot here, cool. Then what I want to try now is to define this with a little bit of shadow, I guess. How do I want to go about doing this actually? Do I want to give it shadow, or do I just want to? No, I'll just paint this in. Oh, so much easier when you're drawing, because then you can just figure out the shape with the drawing here. I have to imagine a lot more. I kind of do this kind of stuff, but it does create a nicer look, I think. In general, like the whole like painting it and figuring it out like that. You kind of just jump in between different modes of figuring stuff out. That looks like a nose. Don't like that. Oh, this should not be like that. Kind of spider-like. So apparently this is some kind of pilot. That's just how it works. So it is kind of freeing, you know, like this kind of approach here. Instead of having to do the whole drawing thing, I can just go in like this, but then and immediately define something. That there, and then let's see here, like that, like that. I did ask this like actually a few streams ago, but I'm really seriously considering doing potential mentorship or some kind of classes. And if anyone, I don't know, if anyone's watching who's kind of like actually interested in that, or have a suggestion or something, or have a wish or something, and then that would be great. Or potential topics for streams, that'd also be super cool. But if there's anyone who's kind of like potentially interested in something like that, then I'm all ears. Shit on Rats interested. Could you, if you can specify kind of like what maybe you're interested in, or what you feel like you could use, or something, or if you want advice, then, because I think about different ways of doing stuff. Like mentorship is one thing. I can also offer like a more in-depth like portfolio review if something's interested in, if you're interested in that. Like I really like, so I've done some portfolio reviews a couple of times for some people, and the way I go about it is that I basically interview the person for like an hour to figure out what they want, and just have a discussion about like where they want to go, because I think that's the only way to go about it. Just looking at somebody's work and just being like, you could do this and this and better, and they're like, I'm trying to be a creature artist. I'm like, oh okay, you know, it's just really figuring out what somebody wants, and then try to help with that. That's the thing I could do, or I could do like a more like long-term mentorship thing, or I could do a yeah, there's lots of things basically that could be a thing. I'm kind of like open to doing lots of things. One thing I really would like to do is do like a world building class, like teaching world building, and kind of helping people through a project. And it would be very heavy on the world building and not so heavy on like drawing and stuff, or like making art, just more on idea generation and those kind of things. Because I've been developing, you know, so many techniques over the years for like how to do things. Oh, this is so much fun. I love this. This is great. Maybe we can even have a little bit of white here on the knuckles here. And if you're not interested, that's also, I mean, that's fine. You know, I have plenty of courses that already exist, and there's lots of free content on YouTube and stuff, that, and also totally fine if you're like set with that. But I think there is something to be said about like a more in-depth, like kind of personal teaching. If you like, you know, I'm considering that most of you people are like watching this channel and stuff to, I guess, learn or get some insight, or maybe just really like me. I like, ooh, you know, that's kind of my. I think that's why most people watch the content, right? Is because that's kind of where it's at. Probably do the helmet a little bit nicer, but right now we have this going on, which is not bad at all. I want to find like a bigger kind of something like that. Whoop. You guys are very quiet. This is so fine. I need some stimuli in terms of like questions, or just shoot me down. But maybe it's just one of those days where it's just one of those silent days. Whoop, 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 whoop. Oh, but then do that. What are you drawing? Oh yeah, my mustache gets in the way of me drinking and eating all the time. I would say it's one of my chief counter recommendations to getting a mustache is just that your eating will just become the worst ever. Oh, nice creatures, yeah, that's great. Oh, this leg is not good. 100%. I think especially something like cream cheese, which sounds kind of disgusting, but like eating, you know, like Philadelphia on bread or something, then that's just a living hell. But I just gotten really good at always sitting with a napkin. Yeah, that's nice. Trying out the same style shade on, yeah. And so, just to talk about like the topic, I guess, like this this style of painting is like, I'm still trying to figure out exactly where I want to take it. So I'm just trying, you know, a lot of stuff. You know, I don't know where exactly it's gonna go yet. I have a long, thin braided beard. Soup is almost healthy. That's great. Like a single braid. Do you have a thing on your upper lip also, or you just have like the long braid? Do you also have long hair? I'm trying to imagine what you look like. It's always a fun. Let's see here. What do we? Oh. Okay, the helmet is a little bit big, or she's just a little bit short. I mean, it's probably not that unreasonable to be honest. Oh, you know what? I just really want to give her like a jetpack. I used to have long hair many years ago. Okay. He was Jesus. Okay, what if the pilots see, now I'm getting into like this like design territory, and that's just awesome. What if the pilots have a seat? Yeah, like this. That's the thing with drawing, it's just a little bit better this, etc. Yeah, I think the legs are like they seem a little bit disproportionate to the entire upper body. I think actually I'm gonna scale the entire thing up here down a little bit. But I'm just gonna so we have the cockpit here, some kind of cockpit thing like, oh, this is a terrible cockpit. Wait, seat here, there we go, like this. And then we have maybe something like that there, cool. Then we have some grips like that, very Evangelion. Okay, and then there's a ship around this thing, right? Right, so that's a cockpit, that's a chair, those kind of things, and that's the things. Then we imagine that we have the pilot. In this case, this is the pilot here. Oh, what's happening? I'm not allowed to draw. Okay, that was weird. With the pilot here somewhere, sitting, being like, whoa, look at me. Like that. Like that. Like that, right? So the pilot's sitting there. But then you know that some ships and stuff, they have auto eject seats, right? Like, so catapult seats. What if the catapult seat is like a jetpack? That then they can catapult themselves out, and but then now they have a jetpack. So their seat is just always this jetpack that's there, and it will work as like a maybe they can obviously fast like a parachute in it. That's interesting. I really like that, because what I'm imagining is that if you're in a space fighter, right? Let's say you're a TIE fighter with a pilot in the TIE fighter. Then you blow up in space, and you're like, where do you go? Maybe you want to eject. You're like, how are you gonna eject, right? And I'm thinking maybe they have this system to kind of like go towards a nearby planet and kind of slowly descend towards the planet, and if they have a little bit of rocket boost to help with that, and maybe like a parachute or something, then they could do that. So a jetpack, that feels kind of cool. I need to read here. Plexi writes, Will, have you ever tried messing with AI for rendering your stuff? I'm not really sure what kind of AI you would use, but I hope you get what I mean. Like, use your sketches for base for the AI to render. Let's see here. That's everything. Oh, I need to update. Okay, great. AI. AI. I definitely thought about it. Like I think everyone's thought about it. Like how would that be like using like sketching and then using AI to render? Okay, so I think theoretically, if that was ever to happen, then the way it would happen would be like I would paint a bunch of stuff, about a bunch of characters, and then I would feed the AI with my own stuff, and then it would learn to paint like that. I don't have any desire to have an AI paint the way that other people paint, or like how it was trained on other people to paint. It's like if I wanted to do stuff, it should paint it like how I paint it. And I think the only way that makes sense is for me to create content and then feed that to a custom AI, and then it can paint like that. I don't think AI is there where you can just feed it like a tiny portion of stuff, and then it can just figure it out. I think there's still a long way to go. And of the ones I've seen where it's kind of like it's rendering them finished, then often it gets the details wrong. And sometimes the details are the most important thing. So right now it's not, it would maybe work well with the method that I was showing before with the line and then painting those things, but I have thought about it, like in terms of like not thought about actually doing, but I thought about what that would look like. And I think the benefit is that you could potentially, if you wanted to do a big project, you could push out a lot more content, but I also think it devalues the content you made, that it wasn't created by human hands. So it's just like, and sure, maybe most people wouldn't know, but I think at the end of the day, we are interested in a lot of the stuff because other people made it. I think it's just an inherent interest in, oh, another person made this for me, and as soon as AI and stuff gets involved, then we start losing that connection. We already lose the connection a little bit when stuff gets automated, just like, oh, that this tool did this for us or whatever. But I think AI is kind of like the ultimate sinner in that way. So I don't know. I have thought about it for sure, like how you could use it for rendering stuff, but I don't actually think it's something I want to pursue. Also, a lot of stuff I do is just in 3D, and yeah. So I'm not entirely sure what those things. Live stream. Oh yeah, there we go. Hello, Schultz. Oh yeah, and you got like a nice, and you got a Volbeat poster. That's amazing. Got a nice braid there. It's cool. I really like your what's it called? Your orange mask up there. It's just that is epic beyond belief. Holy shit, that is a long ass. It's a long braid. That's nice. I really love the orange mask. Holy shit, I'm in love with that. Thank you for sharing your face. Thank you for being brave. Johnny Gators, I'm curious about how often you draw with traditional medium. I don't think I saw some sketches in classic pencil marker pen from you. Sorry if there are anywhere. So I do have some very old ones. I think I have one on my floor actually. Wait, what? What happened here? Hello, 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 hello. New video capture device. There, okay. the hell? Why can't I see anything anymore? Oh wait, is it over here? Oh, okay. I was looking at the wrong OBS for like a million years. Can everyone, you can all hear me still? Okay, that's great. I completely lost track of everything there. Dakota just joined. Sup, just got out of meeting. What are we working on? We're doing a pilot with a jetpack right now. Wait, so Johnny wrote, I'm curious about how often you draw with traditional stuff. That's what we're doing. I was looking at my floor. So sometimes, you know, I have paper lying around, and then, you know, I just draw things on things like this. But I used to do a lot of traditional drawing because I went to like a classical drawing school, and I think I have some stuff underneath here. Actually, so you can see like here. So this is like from 2013, so it's 10 years old now. So some things like, most of these are not that nice, but here's some, you know, a lot of croquis, you know, these kind of things, and you know, like some weird people posture things. So I've done a lot of traditional drawing, and I still sketch sometimes by hand, you know. Like, so here's some people's studies with they're upside down, but they're wearing clothes. And I still sketch sometimes from time to time on paper, but it just doesn't happen that much anymore, you know. I do miss it sometimes, but those kind of things. And I have a stack, you know, like there's a stack here, and I have another stack on the ground, and I have more inside of a storage thing. And I've thrown out a lot of stuff also. But I think drawing traditional gives you a certain freedom. It'd be quite nice. These are not really that interesting. Making this more significant here. That's not really right. So that's that basically. A little bit of those kind of things. A little bit of oh, that was my own voice. Yeah, so not really a big thing there. Adam Poole writes, X-Wing is the whole cockpit could eject. Right, so we're talking about this like cockpit thing, and then yeah, I think for the X-Wings the whole thing can eject. But yeah, that's not us. Oh, I really want to do like a breakdown of that. Could we do that actually? If we do like a I think actually the pilot seat is like this. Oh wait, how's the pilot seat? I just want to find the specific ship. So right here, this ship right there, that's the kind of the fighter for this empire here, and they sit right there. So maybe I can do something like a side view thing here. It's kind of fun to break down this whole jetpack thing. I'll just move this out here. Oh, move this over there, and then I'm gonna create some kind of seat position like this. Actually, what is it with when you're in space? You want your what is it? You want a certain part of your body to be directed towards. You kind of want your feet to go towards your the direction you're traveling, because when you're going really really fast, then all the blood will flush, like run a certain way, and if you're like head first into the thing, then all the blood will rush to your feet. So you kind of want to be a little bit elevated, I think. So it's probably something kind of like this. Let's see here, how can we manipulate this thing to... Okay, and then do some kind of seat-like. Yeah, something like that, right? Kind of got that cockpit thing going on. And then the important bit here is the jetpack. That is like the actual seat that they sit on. And it just sits there. And this is already like really how do I wanna... how to shape this thing. So like that basically. This thing can just kind of connect to... Should I have a headrest? Or does that matter? It's probably nice to have a headrest. Maybe there's a headrest that kind of gets blown off. That feels kind of interesting. Right, so something like that. And then I want to do this sequence here. So let's take this here and just make it a little bit smaller. I think doing these kind of things is like really good for just really cementing your idea. Because I'll draw this and maybe I'll forget. You know, I might forget that I came up with this idea of the jetpack seat or whatever. But if I really draw it out, then one thing is that like it's clearer for other people to see what I'm talking about. But I'm just spending a little bit more time with it, and then I'm just more likely to remember, which is a genuine issue for me. It's just like, oh shit, like how was it exactly that? Where was that idea and stuff? So ship gets kind of like blown. So maybe there's something that's happening like that, and like, or maybe it's more like blasting it off. Maybe we can even do it in perspective. Extend this a little bit. Was that necessary to do it like that? Maybe just like that. And then a little bit smaller. Then we want that next one here. Like, oh, like, oh. Oh, okay. There. And then, like so, like so. And then we want to take this one and just let it kind of fire upwards like this. And then we take our character and bring with us here. Or I guess these things also need to break off, but maybe that gets broken off by the impact of that thing. So that's whatever that is. And then these legs here, they kind of get to maybe they're actually holding on to the jetpack here a little bit. So that's kind of an arm holding on to the whole thing here. And then the jetpack gets a little bit of a boost here. Like that. Then they fly out. Maybe we just need one more. Does that make sense? And then we get, basically we get this thing here. Like that, basically. Oh, I missed a lot in the chat here, sorry. Thanks for sharing some sketches. So you're mostly in digital, but I'm glad that fortunately some of your stuff sketches online looks traditional. Well, that's awesome. When you're doing characters and stuff, do you take into account things like shape, appeal, and flow, or not think about it too much, trying to pay attention to that stuff more, but it's a really niche topic? Oh yeah, I definitely think about like shape and flow and appeal and all those things. It's just, I think that I think a lot of those things like shape, appeal, and flow, they come from the way that the world naturally works, and then we emphasize those things. And I think if you have a really good grasp on drawing things the way that they draw things from, like the way that things function in the real world, then I think you can kind of get those things by just, like if I'm constructing a character, for example, like drawing and constructing the character, if I really know what I'm doing, I can just rely on just constructing the character and doing this pose, and I know that this pose will create something that is flowy and appealing, and I don't even have to think about shape, because I know that the resulting shape from this pose with this posture will give me that. So I tend not to think about shape, because I know that a certain pose and body type and stuff will just create that shape, if that makes sense. That's more often how I actually end up working. And sometimes I do correct it if the shape is not quite there, but I rarely start with shape. But I do consider shape. I would just say that the approach is maybe a little bit different. Like this. Like that, basically. That was kind of what I wanted here. Merge group, that sounds great. Merge group, yep, merge group. And then we can just do a little bit of 1, 2, 3, 4. This one goes there, this one goes there, and that one goes there. So that's how that works for the pilot. I don't know, Ryan, if that was a good answer for the thing you asked. I hope it was. Plexi asked, we did some digital sketching in college last semester using Wacom, etc. And to be honest, I really did not like it. I guess it requires some getting used to, but it felt so clunky and weird. Plexi, do you mean like digital sketching versus like doing traditional? And it just didn't have the same feedback as that. Okay, right, okay, you answered the own question there, great. Well, you didn't answer that, but you answered my question. I like the feeling of weight of friction that the pen, pencil, and paper gives. The only thing I appreciate with digital drawing is that I don't smear the paper with the drawing medium. Because I'm left-handed, I always smear pencil everywhere. Yeah. Save, yeah, I'll save. Books on shape and appeal. I mean, yeah, let me see here. I don't know, I think digital painting, like, for me it's very important that I'm using this and not a Wacom. No, not a Wacom Ace, like a screen, like Cintiq, basically. Just cause I can be in a better position. My whole posture and stuff is way more important for me that is correct. And I think you can get nicer friction on a tablet like this than on a glass surface. Even though some surfaces have like, oh, it's paper-like, or like, yeah, no, I'd rather just have this down here. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've gotten used to it now, and I think I like it. I think digital drawing works great, but it's not as nice as using a pencil. There's like a pencil is still greater. It's just digital is just practical. Ryan says, do you know if there's any books on it? I feel like I've heard on the subject is like third hard information. Like on appeal. Okay, actually, let's just look at that for one moment here. You know what? Let's take a 5-minute break, and then I want to come back to that specific thing that you asked there about like shape versus like the other things, and I'll just give you my opinion on it, and then maybe there's some books, but I'm not entirely sure. But let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll get back to it. And we are back. Back in action. Okay. I think I'm also just like running low on sugar. I just need to check my phone. There we go. So let's see here. What do we got? Barry Ryan, to paint or to draw, lol, I can never decide which one is better either. It's very interesting thing, this thing. Yeah, I do have my Hinderbos. Plus it feels weird to look at the screen while my hand is on another surface. Okay, actually there's a whole bunch of topics here that are all great. Wait, that didn't sound right. Okay, I mean that on paper you look at the paper while drawing, while when using a webcam you look at the screen. Johnny writes, I don't have a problem with looking on screen while drawing on tablet, but I love traditional way feel of paper, of the pencil stroke and so on. Yeah. Barry Ryan, I was drawing on a sketch pad recently, and after making a mistake I went to try Control C in my mind. Lol. Yeah, exactly, that's exactly the thing. So I want to tackle the easy one first. This is the big advantage of digital and this one. You can draw here, and then it's happening up there, and my hand will never be in the way of the thing that I'm drawing. And that is just brilliant. Another thing is like the direct translation. So my tablet is smaller than my screen is, so that means that my translation from my shoulder and my wrist and my arm and stuff to the screen, it's a little bit different, you know. But excuse me, I find that I'm usually scaling my canvas and just zooming in if I need my hand to do a certain I feel like it ends up making sense, and with practice it becomes, you know, nice. I definitely don't find it awkward anymore. But I definitely have colleagues and friends who feel like that, who have a much easier time if they readjust some of those factors. For me it's fine. It's just, you know, personal preference, right? And I think at the end of the day you should just have a setup that really works for you. But there are some caveats, I think, with some things. Like, I think it's easier to maintain a good posture with a tablet like this, because I can keep my back straight and then looking straight ahead, which is nicer than crouching over a Cintiq. And many people have discussed, are like, no, actually you can easily, no, I mean you will just have worse posture by sitting over the screen. And you know, I don't want to destroy my hands or my back or something, because my livelihood is sitting down and making stuff. So I want to take good care of that, basically. So that's that discussion. And then we're talking about drawing and painting. No, actually, I wanted the Ryan Taylor stuff. Okay, well, let's do the shape thing, actually. I'm just gonna quickly talk about that. You know what I think is interesting? We just did this character, right? And hello, Second Animations, welcome. And I drew the character as a character, basically. I drew a helmet. I didn't really know what was going to happen, if there's going to be a jetpack and stuff like this. And I could maybe also have gotten here by just doing the whole thing as one big shape, you know. That is totally possible, you know. I could have done a shape like this to begin with, and then interpreted it as a jetpack, right? We could have done something like, be like, oh, you know, here the arm is, or something, and then etc. But it could also have been interpreted in a different way. It could have been, oh, now this was a now this is actually the arm, and it's like a big, cool, I don't know, robot fist or something like that, you know. There's many ways of interpreting these kinds of things. And I think that's cool. But I find that more often in design, we're not really trying to just make a shape and then make sense of it. more often it's the other way around. We have a problem and we want to find a shape that suits that problem, right? So if your problem is that like we create a small villain, who is a scientist, right? Then it's like, okay, fine. Then we want to find then we could be like, okay, are we looking for, what is the important thing, right? Is it we're looking for a shape that is this, or we're looking for a character? At the end of the day, no matter what we're doing, it's a character we have to make, right? It's like, and however we find it doesn't really matter, right? But we're looking for a character. And we could go about that by being like, okay, let's do a shape here. So we like create a small villain who is a scientist. I'm gonna create like a little kind of shape like this. I'm gonna do it a little bit cartoony, like this kind of. There. Then we have, you can kind of see how that thing is gonna unfold, right? That's one way of going about it. We could also do like something like there's a small villain here, so it could also be something that is more. It's not the best thing, but you kind of get what I'm getting at here. Small scientist, and maybe he has a cool coat or something. Looks more like a superhero. So here we have kind of some shapes associated with our brief, right? The problem is that like at the end we're looking for a character, right? So for me, it's like, are these characters or are they kind of like symbols in a way, right? Like this shape, like yeah, we can see like the head here and the nose there, and we can see the feeling of the character, but there's so many other things associated with the character that that could also be really, really important. And it could be that this character is not going to be defined by their shape. Maybe it's other things. Maybe it's the kind of character that it's just purely their personality and they don't look the part. And I think the problem with doing shape-based stuff is that you might not find the kind of the elements of the character. You might lose out on some elements of character development, right? Because it could be that like this is our shape for our villain, right? This is our shape for our small scientist villain, right? And it's like, oh, but that's not really a shape like these. These feel like they're, or especially this one. This one's really honing in that like idea of the scientist. But maybe we're like, no, this is our shape, and then we have to make that work, and that means we have to start thinking a different way and maybe make something that's a little bit more unique, just because we're not going with the simplest and most purely like widely accepted version of a small villain who is a scientist, kind of, which and that's fine. But I think like often in children's stuff and stuff that's a little more simple, then shape really takes precedence because you just want to make it absolutely clear. But once stuff is maybe a little bit more for adult, then maybe we're more used to like nuances, and we don't want these like completely just striking simple designs, and maybe want something a little bit more nuanced or different. And when that's the case, then I find that shape usually leads us down a generic pathway, and I tend to design for adults. So, and I want to make stuff that feels unique and original and stuff like that. And I think that going shape, it it minimizes the dimensions that you can think, and you're just automatically gonna think a little bit more generic, because you have something so simplistic to use for an indication. And that means that when you have all your silhouettes lined up, you're like, which silhouette do I like the most? And then you're like, well, depending on the brief, then this guy fits the best, you know. But you're like, but there's all these other elements that could be like specific, the facial type, or a small thing, or the way the character acts or moves and stuff like this. So I think there's a lot of downsides to working with silhouette. With that said, though, shape is still really, really important, because it is like our initial read. And I find that instead of doing silhouettes, I prefer drawing something out as it is, kind of like constructed or shape, like constructed character. And then I know that a certain kind of construction and a certain kind of drawing will create the shape that I want. So I know that if I create a guy who is like a small evil scientist, you know, if I create him like this here, and then I'll let his feet go out here and stuff like this. Then I know if I create him like this, I know that if I construct the character like this, I can then come in later and then do this thing with this code. I've already planned this out in my head before I'm even like drawing the shape, you know. And then if we end up actually quantifying what the shape is, then I'll try doing that actually here. We'll just do like a little bit of a gray background like this here, and then we'll do like let's take this and just paint on top of this here like so. You know, the silhouette for this guy is the same as this guy over here. They work on the same principles, but I got there in a different way, you know, because I knew that it would result in a similar silhouette, right? But I didn't have to think about the silhouette. I just knew that, like, okay, you know, creating a little hunched over guy and then draping that in that cloth will create this silhouette. So I don't have to do this thing first, and then I can do all these other things that maybe are relevant for the character, like drawing the face. I find that it's more likely that I'll discover something more interesting if I go about it like this. So yeah, that's generally how I like to think about it. I love decides between square, triangle, or circle. Cool, now I make 12 different kinds of triangles. Oh. I'm reversed. I'm very good with finding my shapes within my shapes. Gonna go to bed. Bye, Blixer. You know, the fucking mastered silhouettes. Vacon. The dude's brain is cool. Who's Vacon? Is it Konstantin Vavilov? Yeah, these are kind of these like black silhouette, black and white silhouette shapes. Yeah. Um, mm, mm. But sometimes I do. Like sometimes I make silhouette stuff, you know, and it's just about having like the right tools. But you can do, you know, like I think shapes can be really good if you're doing something a little bit more abstract, and if the design isn't necessarily like the design itself, like the concept and stuff, isn't the alpha and omega, but maybe more like the drawing itself or the painting itself is more important. Then I think shape offers you something more expressive often than like a constructed thing. And that's quite nice, but you often lose out on some of the details, and I think sometimes the details is just what makes stuff. And lots of the most iconic designs we have, they don't necessarily have the most interesting shapes. Some of them do, but I think stuff like, you know, Star Wars, for example, like, you know, the shapes are very subtle, and I know that they weren't designed based on shapes, they were just kind of like drawn. You know, and I think the whole shape thing is a pretty fun like process, because it's quite freeing. You don't have to think as much. You can just kind of push and pull. Yeah, I think it's not. Yeah, shape. That was just a side step right there. Sack Animations, the Mist Pass people. What is that? I'm using it for mechs at the moment because I feel like thinking about functionality can only get you so far with those. Beyond like limb movement, it's all just made up of tech, so kind of reliant on shapes. I don't know, I think if I'm designing a mech, I'm definitely thinking function first still, but then form follows function. right? It's just it's a known saying, so that means that a certain function creates a certain shape. So if they're like, okay, if I wanted a mech that was really good at running, then I would think a lot about the legs immediately. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be a leg heavy thing, so maybe it has very powerful kind of thighs, and then maybe it has very kind of thin and springy lower legs or something, and then I feel like the shape just kind of starts solving itself, and then immediately I think like ostrich and those kind of things. I'm like, okay, that's the kind of shape that I want, and that means that that has a certain connotation in terms of like in terms of design and angle and those kind of things. Maybe we even have something like that. And it's like, okay, this is a running robot, and then I'm doing everything that's kind of like, you know, it's like, that's just, I'm still thinking shape, but I'm letting the function guide the shape as much as possible. Oh. I don't know. I think some pretty hardcore like mech designers, they will tell you like no, this is where this and this and this like flows and stuff. Like I definitely know some guys who are very, very, very into the whole. And I think some of the mech designers I like the most, they're the ones who like really get into how stuff, if it was supposed to work, then it would work like this. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no, like the cockpit would be there, and then maybe there's some arms that sit out here, and they have to be streamlined, so they're gonna sit on this like very kind of almost like a wind frame kind of thing, like on the back of a car. Then you have these arms that maybe are hanging from there or something like that. I will say, Schultz, thanks for joining. Thanks for keeping me safe. You know, appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know. I like designing with form over function over form, 100%. Always. I think the designs always become more interesting. I think if you go to shape, I think you're more likely to make something generic and not find those kind of like bizarre different things. The more you can solve your design in terms of like function, and then find the form to like fit that, I think the more interesting your stuff often becomes, in my opinion, you know. No, and in terms of art, it's a very different thing. Like in terms of what like looks nice and pleasing, then that's one thing. But in terms of design, then I don't know. I would take any kind of interesting function, idea, concept over any quality drawing every day. Like learning, if you're talking specifically about mechanics and stuff, then you know there was this. I want to see if I can. Where is he? Martin Herr. Is that his name? Oh, it's 2 A's. Right, so Martin Hermans, I think his name is. Maybe I should check his Instagram actually. There. So Martin gave a talk at a conference I went to. At some point, Martin's a hard surface designer, hard surface concept designer, right? And he obviously does a lot of like functional design, right? Like that's kind of his stuff, right? And you know, it has this quality of like, you're like, yeah, that would work, you know, like the way the wires go from here and stuff like this. And he absolutely has a reasoning for why every single thing is like this. And somebody also asked a question like, oh, how do you learn like all the mechanics and stuff if you're not an engineer, right? It's like, you know, there's a lot of kind of YouTube videos with a lot of kind of super nerdy engineering types. For some reason, a lot of Indians just explaining. I guess India just has a lot of engineers. Indians just explaining engineering, and it's just very dry. And it's just like mechanical engineering stuff. It's all super sound material, but it's quite dry. And he's like, yeah, I'm just watching that. But I think if you go shape, I think you're less likely to come up with something like this, which is just one of my favorite designs of in existence, which is kind of, how the hell do I move to the next one? Do I do like this? Okay. This is a flat pack mech. So it means that the mech is flat packed like this, and then it kind of unfolds, and then you sit in like that. I'm like, this idea is just, it's so good. And I swear to you, I do not think it came from a shape. It came from an idea, and then it has to be solved mechanically to work like this, to get this result. You can't just get that from a shape. You could make this shape, but then it just wouldn't be the same thing as like the kind of like tightness and the feeling of, oh yeah, this would work. It gives you a different feeling when it just all clicks together. And it's not that the drawing or the painting looks so nice because the shape is so there. It's just that it feels so real, and it triggers a different part of your brain. And for me, it's more often about that. And then if the shape happens to be cool, then that's awesome. And I think the shape is super cool on this thing. Like, I can't see the entire body, but I can imagine that it's super cool. That's because the function just like is interesting, and it's probably going to create an interesting shape. That's just my opinion. Like, I think it's that works for me. Second Masons asks, just curious, do you do concept art for a job, like full time? No, I actually don't do concept art full time for a job. I used to, but then I stopped to focus on my own stuff. I would say that I definitely draw as much as a full-time concept artist, and I do as much concept art as probably a full-time concept artist, but I don't do it for a living anymore. Yeah, but I mean, it does happen that sometimes I do a gig, but I do a lot of teaching for concept art. Actually, I'm going to a school to teach very soon, and then I'm teaching again. So in end of February, I'm teaching, and then teaching, and it just works better with my lifestyle. Like, I think I don't actually like drawing for other people that much, like drawing on their projects. I realized that I was like, you know what, I'd rather just work on my own things. So I'd rather find a good way of like making money in such a way that I can optimize how much time I spend on my own stuff instead. And it almost don't matter if I work at a factory or if I'm doing concept art. At the end of, like, doing concept art for a client, somehow it's, if I'm not doing my own stuff, then I'm like, then it's the same. It's just labor. Then I'd rather teach or something where, yeah, that's just how it is for me. But I used to do it full time for like 2 years. Ryan Taylor, yeah, it's a weird one. Like, a lot of people like the whole World of Warcraft armor, but that stuff bugs the hell out of me because it's so impractical as armor. Rule of cool versus practical, I guess. Yeah, I think it's like shape and stylized stuff has absolutely its place. I think the more stylized you go, the more shape starts being the right thing, because it's all about expressing a certain thing, and I think that's what World of Warcraft is doing, right? It's like a hyper reality, like it's a hyper fantasy, right? It's like high fantasy, where the armor is ever so extra clunky. And I think when it gets to that point, I think it's kind of endearing, right? Because it's just so ridiculous that it's just cool for the sake of being cool. But I think you lose out on a lot of the stuff where you you lose out on kind of the intriguing part, or I don't know what you would call that, but it's something like that. It's a slippery slope. I spent like 6 months studying the tutor period for a project, and I'm not sure if I made my work better, so trying to shape root now. You're not sure if it made your project better. Right, okay. But you know a lot about tutor now. You could probably explain how tutor works to anyone else, I'm assuming. Hopefully. I spent like a month just studying like creating an art guide for Roman architecture, and I thought that was great. Like, it didn't make me better at drawing or anything like that, but now I know about Roman architecture, so I can kind of pull that out and use that, and that's nice, I guess. But with all this stuff, it's all, you know, it's drawing and painting. There's no right and wrong, like with all this stuff. It's just how it is. Okay, let's merge this stuff here. I don't want to merge it. I'm gonna duplicate it and then merge the group. There we go. Then I can kind of do like this. There we go, that's a little bit more reasonable. No, so actually that's a really interesting point. 90% of the audience wouldn't care or wouldn't know. That's true, but the hardcore audience will care. And I think that most great IPs and great projects are successful because they have a hardcore audience that cares. The hardcore audience that cares are the ones that really promote the project, and they're the ones who live for it. And they're also the ones who create a community that other people find interesting, and then they join, even if they don't become hardcore themselves. The hardcore people are the ones who build the foundation. It's very rare that you have something that is built around just like casual players. That's just not how it works. You have a hardcore audience, and so I think more often it's better to cater to your hardcore audience than the other way around. Like, catering to casual players, you're just not gonna create something of significance in the same way as creating to like a hardcore audience who really cares about the details. That's the way I go about it. I'd rather create something like really like juicy that a hardcore audience can build some love around. And I think it's that thing where like you make something, and then I think the goal should always be love or hate. It should never be just like or indifferent. You know, like if you create something that people love, then somebody's gonna hate it. If you create something where people are just indifferent, then that's almost worse. I'd rather have 5 people love the thing and then 1 million people hate the thing than having 500,000 people kind of, yeah, you know, it's cool. Like, that's my approach, at least. That's how I think about it. So I'd rather really deliver on the details for the people who really care than just creating, you know, like, oh, here's a shape that everyone can kind of get behind and be like, yeah, that's a nice shape. And not everyone agrees with me. I think some people have a way more like kind of like, no, like we have to create like a compromise of the design where everyone can kind of be a part of it. And I'm like, no, I think we should just really serve like a certain kind of audience, and then make that special. Because there's always going to be stuff that is made for a broad audience. That's like the most common stuff. I'd rather make something for a little bit more of a hardcore audience. Like something where you can really dig deep and explore. I hope that makes sense. I don't mean to sound like all judgmental or like angry about it. It's just like there's different ways. That's just how it is. There's different ways. Let's see if we can get that one there. Then we have this one here. You know what this reminds me of? I'll show you in a second here. Hello from Canada. Hello, Synacity, Toronto. This reminds me of Yinxion. ArtStation doing maintenance, that's why. Okay. That's why it's been so slow. Yinxion J specifically did this design that maybe I can find somewhere. Well, this kinda is a little bit. There we go. Like this kind of a thing. That's a good one. Something about that. But with the whole shape stuff, like I'm actually, with the way I'm trying to paint now versus like how I was drawing before, I'm going more and more into like actually doing something more silhouette based. But I'm trying to keep a lot of the lessons I've learned from pure drawing in mind a lot here. Oh, I really want to create like a little rocket exhaust thing here. Then have that kind of shine and color. And then like how does that actually let's see here. Does that feel like it from afar? Jet engine. That's not the best way here, but something along these lines. See, these are some of the things that like I miss doing, is like getting in and then just taking a break from drawing the character and then just drawing a little accent of a certain material or something. Because it kind of has this like this, just this specific bit of the character could just be a really important part of the whole ensemble, if that makes sense. And then just kind of collecting that. Yeah, we've got that like little exhaust thing here. We have that going on there, cool. Got that there, got that there, got that there, got that there. Maybe actually this hand never really became that interesting. it's just because it's a little bit too short. Yeah, there we go. That feels better. Awesomeness. We can do these little accents like this. Maybe this thing could just come in like that. Maybe a little more on the side. No, definitely not. Kind of look like mittens a little bit too much. Or not mittens, what do they call? Slippers. There we go. Then we can add these metals back in here. Maybe just like that. A little bit of the darkness. There. There. I think this helmet design can be a little bit nicer. Yeah, I like that better. That's cooler. With the dome. could we do just like a little bit on the fingertips here? Is that like how we do it? Just a tiny bit on the underside of this, and then merge with some darkness. Now I think this breastplate really makes sense because of the jetpack and stuff. It just, that all merges together nicely. Kinda got this good pilot thing going on here. Maybe we can put in a Julian symbol somewhere. I kind of like that, but what if it was more like here? Okay, I also think we're nearing the end here. Let's just put it here. Nope, don't like that. Just replicating that little blue mark there on the finger. Maybe we can also just get a little bit more of that going on there. So these are pilots. Kind of like that the helmet is a little bit skull-like. Makes them feel like death dealers, kind of. guess it's like a cloth-like thing or something. Makes them feel a little bit more fancy in a way. Maybe I don't like the... If we make this one black instead. Yeah. Then you can just define a little bit with some additional line drawing here and there. And then it's all nice and dandy. Let's see if we can just do that with this finger here also. And you know, I think what's cool is that, like, I don't know how much time I spent on this thing because I also talked a little bit, but like maybe I spent an hour and a half or something. I don't think I would have gotten this far if I was doing just like line and a sketch and stuff. There'd been a lot less I've been able to document, and I think that's what's really cool about the technique. Like, or that's the cool thing with painting, is that you can just define so many materials and things like that. But I am losing out on a little bit of specificity with the exact shapes of things. But it still very much works. Ryan is asking something here. Just gonna turn on the music. I find designing masks or like mech faces so difficult. It's so hard not to accidentally make a face in them. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I think I just... Yeah, I don't know actually. Mechs. So have you posted any of the mechs that you're doing? Like, could you post any of it to like the Critical Giants Discord? It would be interesting to see what you're doing. Discord here. Oh. Yeah, but that's fine. That's fine. It'll still be interesting to see. You can have some feedback if you want some feedback. If you just post something, then like you can just look at that. Mechs. Do you have any specific like mech design people you're like, oh yeah, this is I love this? Yeah, sure. Sheila, you just posted, and let's see here, critical feedback. Aha, okay. That's cool. Jaffa cakes. A mining mosquito, yeah, that's cool. So you're the silhouette one is kind of like, that's where you kind of started, and then you're doing like a more detailed line drawing thing now. it does feel like you're kind of going form over function in a way. You're kind of like it's very clear that it's that kind of thing. I did line first, then went back to silhouette because I didn't like it. Ah, okay. That's cool. Okay. I mean, I'm guessing it's obviously sci-fi, right? It's some kind of sci-fi thing that's going on here. How big is the robot? That kind of be interesting to know if it's like, if it is I'm guessing it's not mosquito sized because I'm seeing like tank tracks on the other one. Massive building size. Okay. Do you want it to be a mosquito, or do you just want it to be mosquito-like? Or are you like, no, like this is a mining robot, and it's a mining robot that just happens to be mosquito-like, not look like a mosquito, but be mosquito-like. Because I think the first one is also mosquito-like, but it doesn't straight up look like a mosquito. With the second one, it feels like somebody made it and was like, let's make it look like a mosquito. Symbolism of the mosquito. Okay. Shinsen, I will also look at your stuff on Discord. I'll just look at this mosquito thing here. Okay, yeah. Are we doing like that? I like the mosquito one. I think shape-wise it's a lot more. It's definitely a lot more interesting the way you're like breaking it up. That's cool. Okay. You know, if it's drilling stuff out of the earth, then I feel like if we just kind of break that down in its core functionality, then it's like, okay, we have the earth, then we have some kind of then we have this like drill that's going into the earth, and then we have some kind of head that's you know, associated with the drill, and then that stuff needs to go somewhere, right? It's going into some kind of container, you know, and then there's some legs, and that's kind of, I would say, like, in really the simplicity is like that's what's going on. It's this machine that goes around, sucks stuff up, and then there's so many ways of solving that, like shape wise, mechanically, all those kind of things. Okay, you got it like that there. I think here they look, I like them more than the mosquito one, especially the one on the far right. There's something that's happening with the eyes that feel kind of interesting. But one thing I am thinking about though is that, like, how does it actually get the drill into the ground? Because if you want to have your drill into the ground, you kind of want to be able to just put the tip on the ground and then go down, and it kind of feels like here it would have to lift its entire body up or something to get the drill out of the ground. So I'm maybe thinking that something you could try to think about is just like, okay, you know, like oil boring rig stuff, they have this system where they have the base of something, and then they have like the drill like this, and then they have to get all the stuff down into the ground, so they push it down there. So maybe you have this design where, and this is just an idea, and you can just take it or leave it. It's just an idea. You have your drill bit design here And then maybe you have drill out here like this. See you, Plexi. Thanks for joining. See you around. Have a great one. Have a splendid weekend. And then maybe you have some kind of thing like, let's see here. Actually, more like that maybe. And then some kind of, I kind of like the design you had, like this like big lumbering thing that kind of snailed its way through the ground in a way. Yeah, this big the larvae feet, whatever. And then you have these arms that are coming out. And they're kind of stretching forwards. And then maybe you have something that kind of imitates a container of some sort. Maybe if it's a soft thing, like if it's a liquidy thing, then maybe it actually billows out or something. And, you know, this kind of inflates with the stuff that's being sucked up. And then once it's gonna deploy the drill bit, it kind of pulls it through its own head. Like that. Whoop. And then it becomes something like that. And then, you know, you kind of have this like interesting shape. It's a little bit more like a tick in a way. And things like that. I just think, you know, you can do something with the shape that suggests that it's collecting something. Because when I'm looking at it now, then I actually think it looks pretty cool. I especially like the environment thing you did. Like this thing here, right? Then I think this guy over here looks pretty cool. But I'm also like just looking at the design. I'm not super sure how like what they're doing. I can see that they're kind of to me. I guess it feels more like they're trying to destroy the ground or something. But if they're sucking the energy out, then I feel like you could do something that suggests that. And you don't have to create a big pillow, but I think you can. Maybe you can do something where it's very clear that there's a stream of something going somewhere, or maybe it's more like, you know, pipes running a certain way or something like that, to suggest that, like, okay, that's being collected. It could also be that it's being collected in those kind of things, or something like that. I personally like this a little bit more like than the straight up mosquito one. I think this still gives me the mosquito vibe. But if you also want to get like a mosquito shape without making it a mosquito thing, then you could say, oh, actually it needs the mosquito wings. Then you could do like containers or something that are kind of mosquito-like, or you could do them like these kind of things. You can do all these parts that aren't wings, but maybe they are, I don't know, not solar panels, but some kind of, maybe they are storing the things in these like flat packed stuff, and they're kind of like wings, but they're not wings, so you kind of get that mosquito vibe, but maybe it can help suggest the function a little bit on the thing, and also add a kind of interesting shape. I like this one. This one's cool. Like I know it's probably the same one, but just right here it looks quite good. It's I like this bam, bam, and with the eyes like that, and then the curve you got going on there. I think that's a good. That's a good shape. It's almost bird-like in a way, more than mosquito-like. Hope that was useful, but super awesome. Okay, I liked it. I thought it was kind of cool. Okay. Ray Shade on Vass. I'm gonna look at your thing here. I think that's nice, and then that'll be the last thing I do for the stream. Oh, that's the wrong one. Come on. Nope, it's not letting me open it. Maybe it's a little bit too big. Copy image, come on. There we go. Okay. Let me look at it like that. Okay, so one of the first things I'm going to do here is just test out the values and stuff. So if I can look at the values like this, and then I will also do this here where I say layer, new adjustment layer, black and white, like that, then layer, new adjustment layer, and we'll create a posterize. And the posterize will just help me see a little bit what's going on here with your stuff. Yeah, this all feels decent-ish. So, okay. I think there's something interesting in how the image works in black and white versus how it works in color. In color, so in black and white, the image is telling me to look here and kind of like, okay, this is kind of where there's contrast and interest, right? And it also feels like that's kind of where we're supposed to look. But then when I go into, and the same is the case here, like this is where we need to go. But then when I go into color, something else is really taking our attention, right? And the big thing taking our attention is this red cape. And that's fine, but it just feels like this is where we're supposed to be. And I think this is just taking a lot of the attention because it's so intense. So that's like a thing that maybe you could try to. You could also try to combine those things, which is actually the main thing that I would do, also to emphasize a little bit of scale here. I think I would actually take this entire guy and then I would kind of just put him way over here by this thing here. And then I would kind of just try to see if we can fill this out. Merge, rasterize layer, content aware fill. There. It's almost like that cape was kind of the showstopper. Maybe it's a little bit too far away. It's either that or like here. It feels a little bit unbalanced, so maybe it's the other way around where he actually needs to come into the image and then it needs to be like darkened. Yeah, there's something with the placement of this guy that doesn't feel entirely natural. I'm gonna try to just remove the red cape here. I just paint this guy. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what I just did. The whole cape thing. We'll just see here what we can get out of this. Also, I think, okay, so what I wanted to say was that before the image was very much like, is it about the cape guy or is it about the environment? And it feels more like it's a kind of environment show off, and the cape guy was just taking a lot of attention. And I think they were like conflicting, like what the image was about, because we weren't seeing the guy from the front or something. So it was just, I think, yeah, it kind of felt like there was something missing there in terms of whatever. Like that. I think also you went a little bit too ham on the filters and stuff. Like there's a lot of noise, and I think more than you'd need. And I think it feels more like you're kind of using the filters to hide a little bit of stuff that you're not super sure about. Also, I think there's a little bit of environment inconsistency. Like there's something over here, and then there's this like dead tree over here, where here is like all lush and green. And then there's this ruin, but here this kind of feels like there's something alive there, and something's happening there. So I would maybe try to like really emphasize which part of it that is the main thing. And I feel like it's the jungle stuff that's kind of like, that's the stuff, and then you can emphasize that on some of these guys here as well. And what I would actually do is kind of remove, oh yeah, right, it's just remove this tree stuff here and just let maybe we can even let the silhouette of this guy kind of come in a little bit, just to feel that statue a little bit. Maybe that's cool. We can just kind of emphasize a little bit of the plants and stuff. Like the greenery here. There's a little bit of color inconsistency with like the plants here are more yellowy and here they're a little bit more greenish. I wish that they were a little bit more similar. But here we can kind of have all this kind of stuff come together a little bit. And you can create a little bit of a I think it's nice to have this greenery very clearly silhouetted against the rock, so that we really know that it's there. Gonna just give this a little bit of this kind of stuff here. You see like the clarity here of these kind of things. There, like that. And maybe also here. Let these things kind of let's see. This stuff can kind of get to grow in also. Maybe not that part there, but like that. And then yeah, we'll try to keep all your growth within the same realm. You can have some variation here there, but I think keeping them similar will help you out a little bit. And then I would actually also just make sure that this thing here is just kind of and also, like, if you have stuff like this stone here, like on this statue, then match it to the stone over here, and like make sure that all the stone is kind of within the same realm. It'll help unify everything a little bit. Just gonna merge all this stuff here. Then we have a guy there. We can still do a little bit of red on him if we really need to, but we can just minimize it a little bit. Then here he gets to pop a little bit again, but it's not so all encompassing. Maybe we give him the helmet again that shines. Then he's kind of there. We could probably give him something. And I think these reflections, it feels like we're losing a little bit of the reflections here. We could probably, I think it'd be nice if it was, if the reflections were somewhat clear, so we could really feel the what's going on there. Put that one there, kind of. And then we have all the black stuff there. And then a little bit of this kind of shine on top here. Yeah, we'll just see if we can simplify some of these things a little bit here. Kind of like that. Yeah, it's just giving it a little bit of life in a different way. Just making everything a little bit more consistent and and stuff like that. And I'm not changing that much. I think it's just really honing in on what you're already kind of doing. Then you do have this like big light here, and you could do all kinds of things. You could also introduce, you know, fancy god rays and all those things, right? Like having these kind of things kind of coming in here and there where I feel like it's possible. Things like that. Yeah. Not a lot. I think it's just like be a little bit more consistent with everything. Cool. Okay, I think that's a perfect time to end. I hope that was appreciated. We're gonna end the stream, but thanks to everyone watching. We're gonna end it on a tax evasion tip, because that's just how we do it. If you want to avoid your taxes, then be this guy. I don't think he pays taxes. He's just out there in the ruins. Be that guy. See you all later. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching the stream. Have a great weekend, and see you around. Bye.